Wasters wait. Creators make. While you're scrolling, someone else is working. Creators don't complain, they conquer. So ask yourself, are you spectating success or creating it? Winners do, losers wait. That's the harsh reality that most people are not willing to accept. The world is full of dreamers, ideas, plans, and potential, but very few who are actually doing something about it. We all desire success, but few are doing anything about it. And the distinction between winners and folks watching others succeed isn't talent, isn't luck, and isn't comfort. It's action, unrelenting, uncomfortable, non-negotiable action. While others are waiting on the right time, the perfect plan, or some mystical surge of motivation, winners are already knee-deep in the grind. They know there is no perfect moment. They understand that life will not give them anything. So rather than waiting for it to be easy, they construct themselves for hard. Most folks live their lives in pause mode. They wait until Monday to begin. They wait for the new year to change. They wait until they are ready, until someone tells them it is okay, until things feel safer. But winners, they simply begin. They do when they're afraid. They go when they don't know. They don't spend time wondering, what if I fall short? They wonder, what if I don't even show up? That's the mindset separator, because winners know something profoundly. Waiting is progress's enemy. Waiting kills momentum. Waiting creates hesitation, and hesitation produces fear. Fear becomes a habit, and that habit traps people to be average forever. Each of the winners you're looking at began before they were ready. They started the business prior to the plan being perfect. They stepped into the gym ahead of feeling confident. They made the call, took the leap, faced the fire without seeking permission. And that's why they win. It's not because they're fearless, it's because they take action despite fear. Action not only builds progress, it builds identity. Each time you take action, even in doubt, you instruct your mind that you're competent, that you're dependable, that you're not the sort of individual who waits on dreams. You become someone who gets things done, and that is the strongest conviction a human can establish. Conversely, those who wait lie to themselves each day. I'll do it tomorrow. The next week will be better. I'm not ready yet. They think they're preserving energy, staying safe, or making smart decisions, but what they're really doing is slowly training their mind to settle, to hesitate, to tolerate being stuck. Losers wait because it's easier to sit in excuses than to stand in execution. It's easier to scroll and compare than to build and create. But winners understand that easy is a trap. They do not desire comfort, they desire impact. And to create impact, that involves doing what it takes when it is inconvenient, arriving when it's hard, begin when the odds are against them. Now get this, winners are not always working harder. They're just working every day. Daily they arrive. Daily they make progress. Maybe it's one step, one rep, one choice, but it's forward. That's the strength of action. Action creates momentum, and momentum is how you get out of being average, because once you're moving, confidence is growing, clarity is growing, results happen, and that makes the next action even simpler. But it begins with doing, not saying, not thinking. Doing, that's where the gap is. Not in resources, not in talent, not in background, but in execution. Discipline beats motivation. That's the second brutal truth. Motivation is a feeling. Discipline is a choice. And winners don't rely on feelings. They rely on decisions. Anyone can work when they're fired up. Anyone can go hard when they feel inspired. But what distinguishes the elite is what they do when they don't want to. When it's dark, when they're exhausted, when nobody's seeing, when all progress is unseen, that's where discipline exists. And that's where champions are created. Losers pursue motivation as if it's an enchanted fuel source they must discover. They scroll across quotes, videos, songs, attempting to feel prepared once more. But champions already know that motivation is fleeting. It dies. It's not true strategy. It's just adrenaline. And adrenaline won't sustain you through the grind. What sustains you is discipline. The capacity to do what has to be done, particularly when you don't want to. That's power. That's strength. That's what makes the difference between dreamers and dominators. Discipline is a muscle. The more you apply it, the more powerful it becomes. It's not something you're born with. It's something you create, and champions build it brick by brick, day by day. They establish standards for themselves that don't rely on disposition. They don't ask, do I feel like it? They ask, is this who I said I would be? And then they behave accordingly. That's discipline. It's making a promise to yourself, even when nobody else will ever notice. Because you will notice. And that's self-respect, that in-house credibility. That's all. Discipline is the whispered razor's edge of the grave. It's the unseen dynamo of greatness. It's what wakes you up when the world is sleeping. It's what keeps moving when nobody applauds you. It's what makes you promise things to yourself and then keep those promises. And the longer you live in accordance with discipline, the less you live in accordance with emotions or fluid. Some days you'll be tired, some days you'll be stressed, some days you'll be down. But discipline doesn't pay attention to feelings. Discipline says we show up anyway. And that's the thinking that makes champions. They're not pursuing comfort hype or fleeting highs. They're developing framework, systems, routine. Discipline sets you up to be unstoppable because it takes excuses out of the equation. You either did what you said you would do or you didn't. And that responsibility, that standard, that consistency, that's what raises folks above average. That's what divides the dedicated from the half-hearted. So as losers wait for inspiration to hit, winners are already taking action. While others remain sitting there trying to get ready, winners are out there getting things done. Not because they wanna, but because they promised themselves, and they're disciplined enough to follow through every single day. Comfort is the growth killer. That's the reality that separates those who evolve from those who remain the same year after year. Human nature is wired for survival, not for greatness. We're drawn to ease, routine, and safety, but nothing extraordinary is born in comfort. Growth lives in the uncomfortable, in the pain, the pressure, the unknown. Winners know this. They seek it. While others pursue comfort, winners pursue challenge, because they understand that challenge is the sole route to change. Everyone desires the outcome, but they don't desire the process. They desire the six-pack without waking up early. They desire the wealth without working late into the night. They desire the spotlight without surviving the shadows. But winners know that you cannot bypass the process. The gym will hurt. The business will push you. The journey will shatter you before it starts to build you. But comfort keeps you stagnant. It softens you. It makes your objectives compromisable. It tells you, relax, you're fine, even when you know that deep inside you that fine is not going to cut it. Comfort is a quiet assassin of dreams because it makes you give up before the outcome arrives. Only growth occurs when you push your boundaries, when you do stuff that stretches you, frightens you, and sometimes even drains you. When you move one more rep, risk one more truth, stay one more hour, write one more page. Transformation starts there. It doesn't start from doing the same boring, safe things every single day. It starts from deliberately going into resistance. And that resistance, that discomfort, that's the gym where strength is created. Mentally, emotionally, physically. Without discomfort, there's no need for your mind or body to change. Without pain, there's no stress to change. Winners welcome discomfort because they view it as feedback. They understand that pain is a signal, not a stop sign. It's a signal that growth is occurring. It's an indication that you're moving out of what's comfortable. Every time you get uncomfortable, every second of doubt, stress, fear, and exhaustion, champions repurpose it. They say, this is where it happens. This is where I stand out, because most people will give up right then. Most people will flee back to comfort, but champions remain. They breathe through it. They battle through it. And when you emerge on the other side, you're not just improved, you're changed. Comfort also blinds you to your potential. It keeps you in situations that don't stretch you, with people who come for your laziness, at work where you don't utilize your talents, in habits that slay your ambition. But growth requires that you interrupt that cycle, that you choose to walk into fire, that you kill the version of yourself that accepted mediocrity. And that's hard, but that's the thing. Progress mandates sacrifice of comfort, of ego, of security. It calls for bravery. Because when you opt for discomfort, you're opting to become someone bigger than who you are right now. Winners fail forward. That's the second truth most people overlook. They don't avoid failure. They utilize it. They are aware that each failure, each slip, each rejection, each no is along the journey. It does not mean stop. It means try again, wiser. Each time they fail, they learn a lesson. They learn information. They learn a new plan. Losers will avoid failure at all costs. They are afraid to look stupid, afraid of being criticized, afraid of losing time. So they do not attempt. And because they do not attempt, they never increase. They exist in a loop of what if. never knowing that the price of not failing is the killing of success. Winners fail more frequently than most individuals even try. Because they're in the arena. They're swinging. They're taking shots. They know that failure is the cost of mastery. No one does it at the highest level without first being humbled. Failure humbles you. It shows you what you're capable of. It takes away ego, reveals weakness, and brings out who's genuinely committed. And the reality is that most people do not fail once. They fail and then quit. But winners fail and they come back again and again because they view failure not as a wall but as a stepping stone. Every successful person has failed publicly, painfully, repeatedly. But what was the secret to their success wasn't their victories. It was the way they reacted to the losses. They didn't allow failure to define them. They didn't allow it to deter them. They allowed it to hone them. Winners understand that failure is not the other side of success. It's the ingredient of it. You don't succeed in spite of failure. You succeed because of it. Because of the way you learned, adapted, and grew through it. Champions also understand that failure doesn't equate to you not being good enough. It equates to you becoming good enough. It's on the climb. Each step to success requires a better version of you, and pressure reveals that version. Through failing and choosing to rise again with greater focus, more hunger, and more fire. You don't learn that from playing it safe. You learn that from risking embarrassment, living with doubt, and showing up anyway. Champions are okay with failure because they realize you can't isolate the process from the prize. If you want to be great, you must be willing to be a beginner. If you want mastery, you must be willing to screw up, to be awkward, to make mistakes, to be foolish. That's the price. And most people are not willing to pay it. They desire to win, but fear to lose. But this fear prevents them from ever attempting. And that is where the true failure lies. For you can bounce back from losing. You can recover from a blunder. But you can't recover lost time spent doing nothing. That's why winners continue to move forward. They continue to show up. Even after the crash, even after the defeat, even after the world tells them it's over. Because to a winner, failure is not the end. Quitting is. And they don't quit. They fail forward. They get back up with more lessons, more grit, more hunger. And each time they get back up, stronger. Failure does not weaken them. It refines their edge. Success is built in silence. That's something the loud ones rarely understand. Winners don't need to announce every move, post every effort, or broadcast every plan. They just get to work, quietly, relentlessly. While the world scrolls and talks and flexes, winners are locked in. Not because they're hiding, but because they're focused. Because real growth doesn't happen under the spotlight. It happens in the shadows. The early mornings, the late nights, the invisible reps, the solitary grind. That's where the foundations are set. That's where the champions are forged. The noise is alluring. Social media encourages you to present all. The grind, the thought, the highlight. But the winners, they know better. They realize that what's best in life develops best in silence. Muscles don't develop in public. Bank accounts don't build up from speaking. Skills don't sharpen with likes. Winners value progress over praise. They don't need applause to validate their work. Their validation comes from discipline, from consistency, from waking up every day and doing the work even when no one sees it and no one cares. It's easy to fall in love with the image of success. But winners fall in love with the process. They understand the loudest person in the room is not often the most threatening. It's the quiet. The ones who are so focused on becoming better. The ones who are too busy getting better to pause and prove anything to anyone. When they do finally show up, everyone says they came out of nowhere. But they didn't. They were grinding behind the scenes. They were winning small wars every day, creating something meaningful while everyone else was seeking applause. Silence is clarity. When you aren't performing for the world, you can hear yourself. You can gauge yourself on your own terms, not likes or followers. And that inner scoreboard, that's what counts. Because success isn't for everyone else. It's for you. No one else gets your grind, your pressure, your purpose, and they don't have to. Because this isn't for them, it's for you. And that's why you keep it to yourself. Not because you're hiding, but because you're creating something that doesn't have to be explained. It just has to be done. Winners don't work in silence alone. They develop in silence. They understand patience is greatness. They're not in a hurry to be noticed. They're creating something worth noticing. They're not swayed by trends. They're studying fundamentals. They're not fixated on being viral. They're fixated on going deep, deep into skill, mindset, performance. Because when you concentrate in quiet, you get to battle with yourself. You get to meet your limits, your fears, your weaknesses, and overcome them quietly every day. That internal struggle is where all outside achievement begins. And when the time comes, when the outcome speaks for itself, the silence is rewarded. Because real power can be quiet. It's sensed, it's obeyed, it's unquestionable. And that's the kind of success that endures, the kind that was constructed, not purchased, the kind that requires no explanation. So as the world chatters, champions create. While others tweet, champions plan. Whereas most need validation, champions need results. Because they understand silence isn't weakness, it's concentration. And concentrated people win. Purpose fuels persistence. That's the second thing that makes mediocre into unstoppable. Because talent won't sustain you through the bleakest times. Motivation won't always arrive. And even discipline has its breaking point when things become too much. But purpose is fire. Purpose infuses meaning into the suffering. Purpose gives power to the fight. It's why you don't give up when it gets tough. It's why you say no when you want to say yes. It's why you rise before the sunset after the sun goes down and still push forward even when nobody applauds for you. Because purpose isn't about now. It's about legacy. Champions are not working for success. They're working for something greater than themselves. They struggle with a mission, a vision, a standard. And that purpose is their gasoline. It's what makes their behavior irrevocable. Where others require reminders, winners are driven by purpose. It keeps them sharp, hungry, and tough. They know why they began. They know who they're becoming. And that clarity drives them through all that would cause the average person to buckle. Purpose isn't about goals. It's about identity. When your actions are attached to a higher why, you no longer seek shortcuts. You no longer worry about opinions. You no longer quit in the middle. Because you're not running after something. You're becoming someone. That transformation is what gives you persistence. You don't merely do the work. You become the type of person who does the work. Regardless, that's where consistency is conceived. Not out of hype, but out of alignment. If you're living according to your mission, you don't need motivation. You're driven by something more than yourself. Life will challenge you. It will hit you with delays, disappointments, failures, exhaustion. The days will be long. The returns will be slow. The cheers will fade away. And in the midst of it, most people quit. They doubt their value. They doubt the calling. But winners do not flinch because their purpose is greater than the pain. They know the mission does not change because the mood does. They do not ask, is this worth it? They remind themselves, this is who I am. That internal belief makes them relentless. Purpose also sifts out distractions. When you're committed to why you do what you do, you no longer pursue everything. You no longer compare. You no longer waste time on things that don't support your mission. Because you know your way and you guard it. That's what gives you power. Not so much that you move, but that you move with purpose. That every step is purposeful. That your grind is based on something immovable. Individuals who don't have purpose burn out quickly. They charge hard when it's fun, and they disappear when it's not. They get captured by distractions, drama, and uncertainty. Champions. I root it. They don't need to feel good to move. They need to feel in alignment. And when they do feel that alignment, they become lethal. Because nothing shatters someone who absolutely knows why they're battling. Excuses do nothing. Action accomplishes everything. That's something too many people are attempting to avoid. Excuses are cozy. They save your ego. They enable you to blame something outside of yourself for not getting ahead. But the reality is, whenever you make an excuse, you surrender your power. You tell yourself that your life is controlled by things outside of you. Time, luck, people, circumstances. And in doing so, you hand over the steering wheel. Winners don't do that. Winners own everything. Their wins, their losses, their habits, their outcomes. If something's not right, they fix it. If they're behind, they catch up. If they fall, they rise. No excuses, only execution. Excuses aren't intelligent guys for fear. Fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of the unknown. And so people construct narratives about their fears. I'm too tired. I don't have enough time. I wasn't born into the right family. I don't have support. Those sound like excuses, but they're really just finesse fears. Because the reality is someone with less than you is doing more than you. A person with no connections is creating something. A person with 2 jobs is still pursuing their dream. It's not resources, it's resourcefulness. And winners are resourceful. They make it work. They don't waste time talking about what's not working. They're busy making it work. The instant you stop making excuses is the instant you take back control. That's the shift. That's when the needle moves. That's when the ascent starts. Champions don't require ideal situations. They simply require a reason. And when they have it, they act. Not next week, not tomorrow, immediately. Because action is the great separator. It's what makes goals become momentum, plans become progress, and dreams become reality. You can dream all day, you can plan all night, you can talk all you want, but nothing changes without action. It's step one, the awkward step, the step of necessity. Winners live in action, not reaction. They don't require a great debate, a dozen points of view, or a daily motivational video. They move. They act even when they don't have all the answers, even when the way isn't necessarily clear, because they know movement creates clarity. You don't wait for ideal circumstances. You act and make adjustments along the way. That's how you gain speed. That's how you gain confidence. Every action, no matter how small, is a vote for the person you wish to be. And those votes pile up over time. They build a new norm, a new identity, a new reality. Excuses hold you back from evolving. They cause you to rerun the same issues, relive the same year repeatedly. But action shatters the cycle. It reminds your mind that progress is not negotiable. It reminds your soul that your future is more important than your comfort. And after you begin to move, the game shifts, not necessarily because of what you create, but because of who you are in the process. Somebody who owns it. Somebody who doesn't ask. Somebody who does. You don't make time. Winners take time. That's one of the most straightforward distinctions between the winners and the average. Everyone gets the same 24 hours. That never varies. What varies is how those hours are spent. Most people think of time as abundant. Like they can squander a day, a week, a year, and life will still be grateful. But winners get it. Time is money. Spent. It's gone. And every day is either building your future or stealing from it. There's no neutral. You're either growing or decaying. Losers talk about how busy they are. Winners talk about what they're building because busy is an excuse. It's chaos disguised as productivity. But winners don't chase busy. They chase effectiveness. They don't fill their schedule. They protect it. They cut out what doesn't serve their goals. They cut distractions, minimize time wasters, and get down to the actions that drive results. They don't try to find time to do their dreams. They create it. They plan for it as if it's oxygen, because to them it is. Most people scroll for hours and then complain they don't have time. They watch too much TV, gossip, procrastinate, and then complain their life doesn't shift. Winners count their hours as others count money, since time is the only thing that is more valuable than money. You can lose and regain money, but once an hour is lost, it is gone for good. Winners have respect for time. They understand that what you do with your time reflects what you really value. Not what you value, but what your actions demonstrate. Saving time involves making sacrifices. It takes getting up earlier. It takes saying no to ease. Walking away from distractions that bring momentary pleasure but lasting regret. It takes conditioning your mind to work when it's simpler to sleep, to concentrate when it's simpler to flee. Winners don't have time management. They have self-management. They control their focus, their surroundings, their routines, their schedule. They construct systems that shield their time from being stolen by ordinary thinking. You will never have time to pursue your dream. You need to seize it. Tear it out of your day. Defend it. Utilize it. Each minute you invest constructing yourself accumulates. A single hour of concerted work daily results in 365 hours annually. That's the distinction between remaining stagnant and delivering a breakthrough. Winners don't say someday. They say right now. Because they know that time isn't just passing. It's a test of how serious you are. A test of what you're willing to sacrifice for your vision.
Whereas other people speak of what they'll do, what they'll do.
They don't dream. They create. Because time isn't something they look for in the future. It's something they take in the present. And by doing so, they move ahead. Not because they're lucky, but because they decided to use time differently. At the end of the day, it's simple. Well, you either did what winners do or you didn't. The choice is yours, but so are the consequences.